Good morning. This is Lori at Lobelia Acres. It's 10:38 a.m. Central Standard Time, Mississippi, minus 6 GMT. And I just remembered that I need to grab my microphone. I wonder if I managed to lose it just now. Look in just 1 second here. Start it. I'm not going to restart the stream, but I will restart. Come up to the stop sign first. Okay. Down. Yeah, that should be better. I apologize for that. Still getting used to the whole micro. My name's Lori, Lobelia Acres / Lobelia Travels. There's wood on the road there. It's a foggy, kind of drizzly morning. Cleanse us from every stain and save our souls, O good one. Holy God, holy and mighty, holy and immortal, have mercy on us. Holy God, holy and mighty, holy and immortal, have mercy on us. Holy God, holy and mighty, holy and immortal, have mercy on us. Glory to the Father. I should have streamed it, but I didn't. Because I'm tired. As we drive to Jonesboro, Arkansas. Microphone trying to work at what should actually be. That's what it might. Driving's a little chaotic at the second, but there we go. Tangled up with my seatbelt. I didn't want that messing things up too much, so I had to move things around. So I'm probably going to go back into matters of spirituality and faith again today, because that's what's on my mind at the most at the moment. Well, that and gardening. Those are the things that are on my mind the most at the moment. One of the stops I made on my spiritual walk was in the Mormon church, and one of the things that really stood out to me as something that was not very good was how they would take words that other people, which is particularly the Bible churches, the fundamentalist type ones, they refer to your testimony as being a talk about your journey to Christ, how you got to where you are today. That's what they refer to as their testimony. Well, the Mormons also use the word testimony, but in their case, it means more along the lines of, I know my church is true, period. Maybe a little bit of why, but just about, I know my church is true. So they've kind of reinvented the word. And I think there's some other examples too, but they also talk about the great apostasy, which is how they justify the idea that there was no one to properly interpret Scripture from pretty much the time of Jesus until the coming of age of Joseph Smith. And there's a lot of the Protestant denominations that will say something similar in order to say, hey, we're the one church that Jesus set up. We're the one church. There was just this big gap in the middle where apparently the Bible lied, that there will always be somebody with us to guide us. You can't have that. And you can't have that. It doesn't work. Either the Bible is true and there's always been someone to guide us in the faith, or the Bible is not true, at which point your faith has it's now hypocrisy. So it doesn't work that way. And I'm coming to realize right now that the word ecumenism is another word that used to mean something a little bit different than it means now. So the church has a history of ecumenical councils, which on the surface is the same sort of thing, and that basically everybody that was part of the church came together to try to work out differences in theology and doctrine and stamp out heresies and keep some semblance of order in the church. And after the Great Schism, the East-West Schism, where the Catholic Church decided to impose some things that the Orthodox did not appreciate, basically said, well, this isn't true. And the Catholics at that time broke off to do their own thing. And from there, of course, Martin Luther broke off the Protestants in the 1500s, and it's gone downhill from there. So at that point, ecumenical councils are going to be not the same thing, because you can't now bring all the Christians together to discuss doctrine and theology, because there's now such huge divides between that. It's not really possible. Not in keeping the faith true. Enter the modern age. Everybody keeps wanting to, why can't we just get along type of thing. So now ecumenism, there's this idea of basically, to paraphrase Father Seraphim Rose, is basically an attempt to reinvent the church. Because obviously what we followed before can't be right, so we've got to reinvent it and include everybody. Which unfortunately means kind of a race to the bottom, the lowest common denominator. Because if you're trying to include everybody, both inside and outside the traditional Christian churches, then there really isn't even room for discussion anymore, because if you're trying to say that you're trying to unite and trust me when I say there is nothing good about creating a new world church. definitely not something of God. Yes, God wants unity, but not at the expense of the faith. The better thing is to work out the one true faith, adhere to it, grow it, and preach it to the world. Which is basically where we were in, 33 AD. Which is when the Orthodox Church was established. Orthodox means right, as in correct. Perfect. Sure, there are good people inside the World Orthodox Church, and there's certainly there's grace there. There's a lot of good Orthodox people there, but the stink is at the top. It reminds me of a piece of literature that my good friend introduced me. This is from the SSPX, from the Society of St. Pius X, which is a fundamentalist branch of the Catholic Church. They were once considered to be in schism, which, again, is weird to consider, to destroy it from the inside out. Note that, there's nobody here nobody in my circle who hates gay people. I've got gay people in my family, and I don't hate them. But it's different from having to accept it being shoved down your throat and pushed into every nook and cranny of life, including the church. It's not God's way. And it's actually interesting because Father Seraphim Rose, who I esteem highly and adopted him as my family's saint, he struggled with homosexuality himself. He was in the lifestyle. If anybody would not hate them, it would be him. But he also came to realize it wasn't God's way, and he had to deal with that in himself. The church is a hospital. It's not for the people who are perfect, it's for the people who are sick and need a physician. And the perfect physician is Jesus. Oh yeah. The calendar. That's an interesting one. Because that sort of marks the date when the modern, I wouldn't say schism, it's like it's not a schism, but it's close to without being, when the Greek Orthodox Church decided to push the new Gregorian calendar on everybody in the church. And in advance of getting to know the genuine Orthodox Church a bit better, I decided to make a study of the calendar to try to understand exactly what happened. So, long story short, um, there is no such thing as a calendar that perfectly matches the days with the seasons. Simply because our day is not exact, and our the year as defined from, say, solstice to solstice is not exactly 365 days. It's 365 and a quarter days, but not quite. It's slightly less than that. And we have the same thing with the moon as well. The moon, which where we get the word month, it's not 30 days. It's not exactly even 28 days. It's like 27 and, I don't know, it's like 28 and a quarter or something, or 27. It's not exactly 28 days. It's not exactly 4 weeks. So it just doesn't work. So anything we do is going to have to be adjusted from time to time. The Council of Nicaea was where they, in 325 AD, was where they established the date for Easter being the first Sunday after the first full moon of spring, after the equinox. But because the calendar is not perfect, so the Julian calendar that was established by the Romans, particularly by Julius Caesar, hang on, gotta grab a drink real quick. Apparently nobody was moving there. So over the course of the centuries, the date was adjusting a little bit too far, and there was also a problem that different people were celebrating on different days still, and so there was a change that needed to happen, and that's fair enough. The problem happened when Pope Gregory, basically in the typical Catholic fashion, this was before the Great Schism. No, it's after the Great Schism. So Pope Gregory, in the typical Catholic fashion, okay, yeah, well, I also don't want to get run into, decided to impose this new calendar that on everyone, where he basically skipped 10 days on the calendar from October the 4th to October the 15th. And the problem was that not only did this top-down approach make a lot of people really, really, really upset, but it was also not correct. It was not the correct number of days. It was still off like 3 days, or maybe I think it was supposed to be 11 days, and we've since needed to adjust another couple of days. And of course, then you have the question of when the Sabbath is supposed to be. And I don't even know if there's an answer to that one. Anyway, so it took Britain and America a couple hundred years to decide that they wanted to adopt the new calendar, and other parts even longer, and To this day, there's a number of Orthodox churches and monasteries, especially, that still adhere to the old Julian calendar, not the Gregorian calendar. And I guess it just kind of adjusts the numbers as they go, which is what's happened. And then actually, when I was growing up, I knew that the Orthodox Christmas was on January the 6th, and speed up to now, and it's actually now January the 7th, because we basically gained an extra day over the last 100 years or whatever. And just throwing out a number there, it's not, it's more than 100 years, I think, to gain that day, but try to let those Amazon truck go past. It's not the problem on its own. The problem is that the calendar was just like the first big change that happened, and other things started happening afterwards that made people really upset. That was, changing the fundamental things of the church and the ecumenism. Okay. You gonna go faster than me or not? I guess he is gonna go faster than me. I really don't care. I just want to get back out of the fast lane because I don't need to be there. And I have people behind me trying to come through. So basically, the calendar was just one thing. The thing that kind of started leading all the rest of the mess that's been happening in the 20th and 21st centuries. That's destroying the church from within. So yesterday I was thinking while I was at work, because I was by myself for much of from my first shift, and when you're by yourself a lot, you get a lot of time to think. And I was thinking about the calendar and nativity, which of course is now the January the 7th and the old calendar system. And I was just thinking about that. Pope Gregory could have fixed the problem a little at a time. He could have thrown in an extra day per year for 10 or 11 years, whatever was required to bring things back into sync, without completely disrupting things the way that they were. It's taken away a day, but you could have done that. Basically leap year it every year until it was caught up, until it was accurate again. That wouldn't have been as disruptive, and I don't think people would have gotten all upset about it. But the thing is, he didn't do it in a way that included people. He kind of just decided to do it, messed it up at the same time, But anyway, I was thinking about the fact that I'd always thought that the nativity was supposed to be on the equinox, which at that time, by the way, was the 19th of December. Note that that's been changing too. We're now, it's now the 21st to the 22nd, whereas it used to be like the 20th to the 21st, and it's kind of crept up a day, just like the just like the Orthodox nativity has crept up a day in my lifetime. So I was like, okay, well, if the nativity is basically 2 weeks behind the solstice, what's special about that? And then I was thinking about my childhood when I noticed on the calendar, my mom had at least 2 years in a row, she had a calendar that had the sunrise and sunset times marked on it. And one year I kind of noticed that hey, while the day indeed starts increasing again after the solstice, that it wasn't, that the sunrise time continued to get later. And as I investigated further, I discovered what I would now call a NASCAR slide, that the sunset time is at the maximum, and as it starts getting brighter again. And that's cool. I mean, that was almost, goosebump level cool. It's like, yep, that just confirmed my suspicion, and was like, okay, I'm happy with that. I'm happy that I can actually manage to merge in front of the prime truck. That's got to be one of the bigger scams that are happening these days. So that you might save some money. So, yeah, that's an interesting thoughts about my walk with Jesus right now. I still have so much to learn. And there's only one direction that I can go right now. And it's kind of, being in the genuine Orthodox Church is a kind of an uncomfortable place, because there's a certain level of rebellion that there's so much rot at the top. Great apostasy, which was something that, after being in the Mormon church, but for them, the great apostasy is where the state of the church has been since the top started being schismatic themselves. They're the ones that are changing, because so much of that has changed. There's a lot of things that can't happen yet, but I have to pray for the church. Entering DeSoto County. and Interstate 22. Hate to think what time it's going to be when I come through here tomorrow morning. I was listening to one of the Genuine Orthodox Church Archbishop last night. Such a sweet man. Has such a peaceful nature about him. But he also won't mince his words. He will say what needs to be said. He'll just say it in a peaceful, loving manner. Not sure why I dropped my speed so far that time. Approaching the first of the 3 water towers on this road from an Olive Branch. love it when people put Band-Aid or ouchie type decals on cars that have dents. I just love it. It's so cute. We're quickly approaching my exit, at which point I will be ending this live stream. I will be back tomorrow. The goal is to be out the door and on the road at 5:45 a.m. Central Standard Time, -6 UTC. Come on, people. We should not be slowing down that much on the freeway. Bye. As soon as I can find the button. There we go. Take care.